Happy Sunday, everyone. Hope one out there is enjoying your weekend. For the last 5 days, we've been tracking this powerful upper level low that left the historic snowstorm across New Mexico into Colorado, as well as into portions of the Texas Panhandle where they saw 2 feet of snow. Just incredible. And here are some of the rain amounts that unfolded across the middle part of the country. And some of these were pretty impressive, folks. We've had 6 to 8 inches across portions of West Texas. And there were feeder bands that fed into Arkansas as well as into Missouri. And then yesterday we had the deluge yesterday morning down there toward Lumberton in southeast Texas. They picked up a foot of rain themselves. And then we had the high risk for excessive flooding yesterday into Louisiana. We had more impressive rainfall totals. And there was also another pocket of energy that highlighted across Georgia as well as into South Carolina. And this morning you can see on the satellite picture, which what was major hurricane Rafael has now hitting that wind shear and being sheared apart, but it is spreading its tropical moisture inland combined with this cold front. So we are expecting more heavy rains across the deep south, but also beneficial rains across Tennessee, getting into Kentucky, as well as into Illinois, Indiana, and Ohio, West Virginia, and eventually Pennsylvania. And then those areas that are desperate along the East Coast will take advantage of that tropical moisture pushing inland. But the unique thing about this storm with Rafael, which was a major hurricane, it's taken a significant turn with that shear that's unfolding across the Gulf. So now it's rapidly decreased into just a minimal tropical storm. And in fact, it's one of those rare storms that made her major hurricane in the Gulf that's actually not going to technically make landfall. So there have been some in history, but there's not really been that many. So it's obviously helpful with this time of year being November, but it's actually going to be pushing further south. But the remnants will push further north inland as it's sheared apart. So today, this morning, we're looking at heavier rains combined with that cold front back into areas of Louisiana, say the Baton Rouge area, New Orleans, back into the western portions of the Florida Panhandle, pushing inland into Mississippi this morning. And then there's the beneficial rains lifting further north and intensifying as you get into Ohio. It'll eventually swing over to Pennsylvania, up here into Michigan this later on this afternoon. And all this transitions eastward as we get into the heart of the afternoon into the evening time frame. So this is definitely beneficial rains. It's been a while, folks. I mean, places like Atlanta hasn't seen anything really since Helene. Some of these are pushing through consecutive rainless streaks of 30, 40, upwards to almost 50 days in some areas. But yes, beneficial rains spreading into Virginia, back into West Virginia, as well as in Ohio, and there's finally into Pennsylvania. Even Philadelphia will finally break the streak of the rainless streak they've been dealing with out there. So yes, definitely some beneficial rains will be moving back in the picture. So for the next 24 hours, there is your flooding rains with the remnants of Rafael down there in the Gulf will be sheared across, pushing further north. So right along the coastal areas, yes, you could definitely still pick up some significant, if not flooding rains across those areas across the deep south. But pushing inland, even some healthy totals with those training feeder bands likely starting to set up across much of Tennessee, back into Kentucky, and then there's those beneficial rains that will spread into Ohio, back into Pennsylvania, those areas in New Jersey, along the coastal regions. Yes, you still get into the action later on this afternoon into tonight. But heading into the week ahead, we've got the ridge of high pressure coming in. Remember, we talked about this progressive type systems coming in from the Pacific. There's really no cold air pushing further south. So these fairly are quick movers as they move across, and you do have cool shots, but they really don't last very long. So once we hit to Monday, yes, we've got the ridge building back again across the middle part of the country, especially there in Canada, where we've got some average to slightly cooler anomalies pushing through back behind that trough into the northeast And then, yes, we'll be watching the Pacific Northwest of yet another system coming on board across that region. And so by the time we head into, say, your Tuesday, heading into Wednesday, yes, we'll have yet another area of low pressure likely trying to form up there into areas of Colorado there. That will swing across the plains. We're not going to be able to get too much moisture return from, heading into this week. We are going to be getting some, but by the time it moves across the middle part of the country, we've got plenty of warm air, folks. As we head into next week, the only cooler anomalies or even somewhat just average temperatures is the Northeast, but the middle part of the country is with that ridge building back in over the top. That will set these well above average temperatures highlighted over Canada. That will likely start the beginning stages of what could set up yet even another tropical system that may try to form in the Caribbean with that ridge over the top. We've seen this setup time and time again. So your true colder air has just been bottled up there in Alaska, and we just literally get these Pacific fronts that move across from west to east. But they are going to bring a little bit of rain for this upcoming week. Definitely not as significant as what we saw last week. But as we head into Wednesday, head into Thursday, that trough will be coming across the middle part of the country. So we've got, light to moderate rain showers across portions of Oklahoma, Kansas, Missouri, back into Iowa, into Minnesota. A little bit more moisture return with more heavy rain coming back in the picture into Louisiana, Mississippi, as well as into western Tennessee. And then as this continues to move across the east, now we're talking late Thursday into Friday for those areas into Alabama, back into Georgia, more rain moving back in. So once you break the streak, we'll be adding to those totals with another system coming in late week, and more heavy rain will be moving back in the picture for South Carolina and portions of North Carolina. But overall, it's going to be a fairly warm week as far as November standards. For the really going into the middle of November, we still got plenty of ridging. We've still got the ridge over the top, so there's nothing coming from Canada. That's all coming from the west, and these Pacific storms and just average temperatures across areas of the Northeast. But with that ridge over the top, that is going to help lower the pressures underneath. We've seen this over and over and over again, and we could see this yet again. So the Climate Prediction Center has highlighted the kind of the same area, the more favored area in November, where you could still get a tropical system is down there into the Caribbean, where we've got plenty of warm sea surface temperature anomalies, and also the deepest ocean water content, the highest, higher values down there, about a half mile below the surface. And the combination of the ensembles are starting to come together, feeding off that ridge over the top that definitely helps lower those pressures down there in the Caribbean. And yes, what do you find? A similar type spot of where the last several storms have come to fruition down there towards Jamaica, south of the Cayman Islands. And by the time we head into, say, maybe the 17th, the 18th, still could be a week away, we're going to be starting to see possibilities of likely maybe Sarah starting to form down there into the Caribbean. But it's not really until the following week we have a little bit more significant changes that are coming in. We still got the ridge that'll be moving across the middle part of the country, but a little bit more significant cool shot of air coming in from the west, a little bit stronger low pressure that will likely dive again into the Four Corners regions, keeping the western areas of the U.S. below average. And we'll be looking at more troughing coming in from the west, and maybe possibly a little bit more significant area low pressure trying to form again down there into Arizona and back into New Mexico. And so, yes, that means likely more snow will likely be back in the picture. This is not until maybe the 18th and 19th time frame, but those areas across New Mexico and in Colorado, you could get more snow from this system as it unfolds the following week, 7 to 10 days from now. But you can see on the surface map what we're looking at with the combination of setting up. This will be the 18th. Notice the low pressure down there in the Caribbean. yes, those low pressures start to form, and yes, we could be low enough where we could be, somewhat close to having yet another tropical entity down there into the Caribbean, while be watching more rain opportunities moving back in the picture for the Northeast. So I think you break the consecutive streak for areas across the Northeast coming up today. But I think by the time we head into next week, we'll have another system. So we'll be adding to those beneficial totals where you desperately need the rain up there. And then we'll be watching, yes, this other storm system that will be coming across that's, into New Mexico. But yes, down below in the Caribbean, we could yet have another area of low pressure low enough where we start to have, at least the NHC highlighted that area, and then possibly coming to a tropical storm. If that were to come to fruition, that would be named Sarah. So as we move across, now we're getting into the 19th time frame. So this is the following week, but likely more snows for those higher elevation areas, and then heavier rains this time, a little bit more significant area low pressure building across the plains. So this will tap into the Gulf of Mexico a little bit more and bring the rains further south this time into Texas, and then pushing further into Oklahoma, Kansas, and that will swing northeast into Iowa, back into Illinois. But on the backside, it will set up a little bit stronger cold front on the backside. So this wouldn't be until the 20th. Again, it's not coming from Canada. So I think much of Canada continues to remain on the well above average side, but it's coming from the Pacific. Even though it is going to be stronger, it's still somewhat going to be, cooler by then, by the time we head into that November 20th time frame. So guys, I appreciate you guys watching. Do like this video, definitely hit the subscribe button, and catch me next update where I protect you before and after the storm.